Those of you that carry extra mags, your concealed carry holsters, and then moving forward into those that are in law enforcement that have kit all around your waist, your bridging of your hips is very important for you to make sure that all of that does not get ripped out.
First thing we're going to do is talk about running. How do we run with our pistol and we do that safely? Then we're going to talk about shooting on the ground, shooting from the kneeling, and how to transition between all of those positions. It's real important that you can get into position quickly, shoot quickly, and then get back out of position quickly. I've found that muzzle flashes attract bullets back to you. So the importance of you being able to get between positions quickly, going from whether it's prone to kneeling and prone to kneeling to standing, or switching sides in your prone position, your use of cover, all of these things are kind of critical. It's not something you want to figure out on the fly. So we're going to discuss it here in the gym, then we're going to go out on the range and we're going to shoot it. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is running with your pistol in your hand. So first principle of running is you need to run. What do I mean by that? To run, you need to be able to pump your arms when you run. You don't want to have one of your arms stuck to your chest or somewhere on your body where you can't pump your hands and run. So when you're running with your weapon, we're just going to keep our wrist bent straight down. So as I run, I'm going to go ahead and turn my laser on just so you can see where this is at. As I have my wrist bent, if you look at where my laser is tracking here as I'm running, it's just going a few feet out here in front of me to a few feet here behind me. And this allows me to pump my arms and just run like I've run my whole life. It's not a big deal. One of the other things, if you think about our sul position, where my sul position, I've got my laser, it's about 12 inches, 18 inches here in front of me. So if I turn around with this, that's the space that my laser is covering so that I'm not flagging anybody. Same principle applies if I'm running this way and I need to turn around, I'm going to turn here and you can see that the laser just tracks right around me as I'm coming around as I present my weapon up so that I can get a straight line to the target like we discussed before. So remember, you always want to have a straight line to the target so you're not flagging anyone. In this running application, it's in a down position, so you can think of it as a sul position, kind of fluid. It's pointing straight down, but it allows me to transition the weapon around my body and then go straight line to target to shoot. All right, so we've talked about running with our pistol. Now we're going to talk about running and then getting into the prone position. So if I'm running with my pistol, as I'm pumping my arms and I'm running, I find the point where I want to get down at. So what I'm going to do is make sure that my pistol is out in front of me, and then I'm going to plant my hand, my non-firing hand, exactly where I want to shoot from. So as an example, if I'm going to use the base of Skallywag here to shoot behind, if I was running and I wanted to plant right here so I could shoot around the right side of the base, what I would do is as I go to come down, my pistol comes out in front of me. I'm going to go knees, plant my hand right where I want to shoot, and then I'm going to build my position backwards from where my hand's at. So I'm going to push my body back so that I land with this hand extended, form my grip, get my body behind cover, and then my shots are going to go about a ½ inch right off the side of the base here so that I'm using proper cover, and this is where I would fire from. If I wanted to transition to the other side, I'm going to roll, shoot from the other side, line my body up, use as much cover as possible, and try to get my rounds about a ½ inch off the base here. Notice that my top leg is pulling me into the ground. I'm not shooting like this to where it's pulling my pelvis upwards. I'm using my top leg to pull me into the ground so that I'm in a good position. So if I want to get out of this position here and I wanted to go to a kneeling position, I'm going to go to a modified push-up position. So I was shooting from here. My modified push-up position is going to be plant my hand right where I would do a push-up, use my elbow, keeping my weapon out in front of me. I'm going to push myself up and I'm going to land right into this pyramid position here. And this allows me to shoot a supported position here. is if I came up and put my right leg up, I would be in the same kind of position. I'm trying to get as much of me to touch the ground as possible. And then now I can support my arm from here and shoot from here. Some people like to just shoot without the support, where they come up and they just shoot from here. This is pretty good. It's like if you're a good standing offhand shooter, this is a good way to shoot too. So any one of those positions to get to a kneeling position is easy to do. We're gonna go over a couple of different options for you to get off the ground to secure your trigger guard, especially if you're in an environment like where there's a lot of sticks or something in the ground, you're in the woods, and you don't want to just plant your hand somewhere to push up in the chance that a stick or something could get inside your trigger guard and pull the trigger. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is shooting from the ground. We're going to go over different grounded positions and then how to get out of a grounded position and then get to a kneeling and then ultimately get to a standing position. Things you need to think about: if you're on the ground, you've kind of lost your mobility somewhat. Obviously, we would get to the ground if we're using some type of cover to shoot from, but when you're on the ground, your situational awareness a lot of times can go down because it's hard for you to look around and it's easy for you to get fixed or pinned into a location. So you kind of have to make a smart decision on whether or not you're going to go all the way to the ground or you're going to shoot kneeling, or if you're just going to shoot there real quick, get out of position quick, get to your next position. It's just kind of a temporary spot for you to be. But you need to be able to transition between different grounded positions and then be able to get back to a kneeling, back to a standing position very, very quickly. So Mike's going to start in a prone position. And this would be a right prone position because he's shooting from his right side. So you notice that his top leg is down here. So that pushed the weight of his body, it forces him into the ground as opposed to this leg being back out of here. So if Mike wants to roll to his left side to shoot from the other side of a tire, he's going to have, again, his top leg is down, his knees down. He's got down here, he's still shooting his right eye. He's going to get as stable as he can to shoot from this position. The next position from here is if he's going to move his legs forward, and this would be left side position, again, top knees down. And this would be if he's shooting around the corner of something and he has all of this covered. So you want to get your body behind cover as much as possible. From here, Mike's going to transition around and go to a back shooting position. Notice from this position, when Mike came around, he didn't flag his knee as he went over. So go back to where you were. So he went from here, his weapon came up and over, and it put him right into this position here. Depending on how your body is, some people have to really crunch up hard to get to this position. But this is a real stable shooting position to shoot from. It's just depending on what your cover is when you're doing this. So if I was just shooting over the top of something, I might want to pull my knees down a little bit just so that I'm shooting over something to cover all my vitals. Again, it's just a position to shoot from. You get what you get in a gunfight. The cover you get's the cover you get. You make the best decision you can. Get as much as your body behind something that'll stop bullets, and then lock your weapon up and make your shots count from there. So from here, Mike's going to go to a right side position. So again, he's got top leg, knees driving him into the ground, putting his body weight down into the ground. He's shooting right eye. And because Mike's a right-handed shooter, he's able to get his weapon a little bit lower to the ground than when he's shooting from his left side. So if you're shooting like under a car and the car is really low to the ground, sometimes this is a better position to shoot from just because your eye and your weapon are closer to the ground, and then you get a better angle to like shoot across the street or something like that. You kind of have to play with it. Again, you get what you get. That's why it's important to practice these different positions and then go from there. So then from here, he's going to rotate back around to a prone position. And then if Mike wants to get up to a kneeling position, there's a couple different ways we can do that. One thing he's going to do here is what we call a transition grip. And so a transition grip is with his support hand. He's going to reach up and he's going to make a trigger guard, if you will, for this. So we talked about before, let's say we're in a wooded area where there's a bunch of trash and crap on the ground. If you just turned your weapon over to push with it, something could get in there like this, hit your trigger, and then you AD the weapon. Not a great professional weapons handling. So this is just a method. We use the same thing sometimes when we're driving, either we're shuffle steering, or if I need to quick transition my weapon over, grab steering wheel, put the car in reverse to do a J-turn or whatever it is, and then transition back. This is just a good way to transition the weapon between your hands and do it safely. So Mike's gonna use this transition grip, go to a push-up position, push himself up, and then notice that he lands in a pyramid position here. So essentially his front leg is perpendicular to his rear shin, and that puts him in a nice triangle, nice stable position like a pyramid, and then he's using this for support when he's firing. If Mike wants to get out of this position, all he's gonna do is push his weight forward to his lead foot, and then that allows him to step right out of it. So let's come back to the prone position, and we're gonna go to, this time I'm gonna have Mike go with his right leg up, and he'll end up in this position. So again, he just transitions the weapon right back into his hand. You notice that he's got a lot of contact with the ground. I found the more contact you have with the ground, the lower you can get, usually the more stable you are. Now, the issue with that is depending on how high your cover is, if your cover is this high, well then you can't do that. You've got to push your body up to get that high. It is what it is. You get what you get. You might just want to shoot from both knees because you're shooting over something, and use good use of cover. So this is just another method. Again, he's got good support here. His arm is supported on his knee. Good bone support allows him to shoot accurately at distance. To get out of this, he's going to push his weight forward onto his lead foot, and then he can just step and be right out of it. Lastly, he could come up and just shoot from both knees. So if he does transition grip, comes up to both knees and just shoots from here. This is real common, and this is what I was talking about, where if I had to shoot over something that had some height, this allows me to adjust my height to shoot wherever I need to. Like if I'm shooting over the trunk or shooting over a hood, I can't stay real low with that because most hoods are probably on a car, are this high.
If you're enjoying this video, I want to take a second to talk about EliteU.com, where you'll be able to find early access to all of our YouTube content, as well as exclusive interviews and access to mentors. And now back to the video.
So use of cover. You notice that when we're doing shooting and moving, we're moving the weapon around our body. And the reason why we do that is so that we can use cover as we're moving. So like we've demonstrated, as we come around here, we're using covers where just the top of my head and my pistol is coming out around cover. Now, if I have to drop down to take a knee to shoot, same thing, I don't want to overexpose. So I want to get out of this isosceles position, get the weapon across my body, and allow myself to be in a good position to shoot from, as well as be able to get back out of position really quick. So the way I'm going to do that is like this. So if I'm moving in here, this is my use of cover that I'm using, bringing the weapon across my body so that only the top of my head and my muzzle is seen coming around this corner over here. I'm going to do the same thing I do if I'm going to shoot stationary, to plan and shoot here where I can only see half the target and he can only see a little bit of me, and then thread my shots really close. To do this kneeling, all I'm going to do is use that same exact line that we use, that imaginary line here. My lead foot is going to stop right behind the line. My rear knee is going to drop maybe a few inches back over here. The weapon is coming across my body, and I'm able to lean out from here so that from the other side, all you're going to see is the top of my head. Now, the key to this is learning where your cover is, because my weapon's canted out slightly, and what that does is it allows my sights to see the target, but I also want to make sure that my barrel sees the target. So one thing when you're shooting a red dot sight, it puts your height over bore maybe another ½ inch higher than you are with your iron sights. So you want to make sure that just because your dot sees the sight, also make sure your barrel sees the sight so you don't splash here. In training, I like to use wood so I can just kind of learn where that's at. I like when I'm training guys, if they burn this a few times, it's okay, because they're learning where they're at. The closer you are to shooting around the cover here, the less of you's exposed, because remember, you're always the other guy's target.
All right, so a couple things on the transitions when we're moving around. You'll notice that when I was doing that, I bridged my hips a lot to make sure that I cleared my leg. When you are doing these drills and movements around vehicles that have glass down, or even say like here in Texas, there are rocks all over the place. You can try to do this as close with contact to the ground as possible, but that's going to be uncomfortable. So you want to get as little of your body on the ground as possible as you're going from one point to the other. The other thing is that those of you that carry extra mags, your concealed carry holsters, and then moving forward into those that are in law enforcement that have kit all around your waist, your bridging of your hips is very important for you to make sure that all of that does not get ripped out. So depending on where your holster is, if it is appendix carry or it's at 4 o'clock, will depend on how much your hips have to go up in certain directions. Okay, so when I'm in this position here, first off, make sure that your feet are not in the way. That's just common sense as I'm starting to rotate this in. When I am actually, if I had a holster onto my right side, when I bridge, I need to make sure that I'm clearing that as much as possible and locking in. And this also applies to something as small as a folder. You wouldn't think that the clip on your folder would be large enough for it to catch as you're starting to move around. When we're running these training drills, some of the things that happen because their hips aren't moving properly is they're starting to shoot, they run dry, they spun around, kit got ripped out, they went for a mag change, all of a sudden their kit's strewn all over the place. So based off of where that placement is, just understand that you want to keep your hips off the ground, transition where you need to shoot, get off the ground and move, but do so in a way that it is not stripping out all of your kit. So we'll be covering if you are on your back and how to properly get up, whether you need to drive forward or if there is somebody directly in front of you that you need to create space from, how to create space, move towards a rear motion and stand. So all of this is from your back. So we're starting from the shooting position when you're on your back. I'm going to be getting up forward with the right hand pressing. So I'm going to take my left leg, it's going to roll underneath, and my right foot is kicking forward. Make sure that the none of you isn't directly in front of the gun. So I'm going to kick forward, sitting up into that shooting platform, and then I can drive in. You can also do this in the other direction based off of cutting your legs the other direction. My right leg cuts in, I click, and then all I'm doing is driving. Based off of your body composition, or if you are wearing kit, so if you have a plate or soft armor, or for whatever reason, driving towards that in a front position is difficult, you have the ability to go to the right or the left. So what happens is I'm in this shooting position. If I need to, I can roll directly to the side, put my arm on the ground. The gun is still facing forward. My opposite hand comes up, and then I'm going to bring my knee back so that I can get into this shooting position and then drive forward. In the opposite direction, what I'm going to do is use my forearm to frame off of my thigh here. And you'll notice that when I do that, I'm just rocking sideways. And now I have a stable platform where I can press. Hand is gripping the ground. I get to my knee here, and then I step back so that I can start to shoot. From this point, I'm going to stand straight up and then drive forward. You will notice that this is very different than any type of stand and base. I am not rotating here and then trying to stand here where my head drops. We are cutting it into smaller sections so that I can dictate if I need to shoot, if I need to go to a platform, if I need to fall back again for whatever reason, or if I need to stand directly up. The next section is what if you had been taken down or you need to create space, right? So Jack is going to be basically into my guard position. For whatever scenario that we're working on, we'll work on this a little bit more in depth. Maybe I was here, I fired around from overhand retention position, I'm kicking him away, my hand's coming up, getting here, and then I'm standing. Another version of that, using transitions on the ground, is I go here, bang, I kick him away, transition, I do a immediate action, start to fire my rounds directly into him, and then I use a side get up to elevate up. And so we will cover all these more in depth when we start talking about retention on the ground.
All right, so we discussed how to run with your weapon. We discussed how to turn when you're running, getting into position, how to go from a running position, dropping into a prone position, how to transition different sides from the prone, all the side positions, going to your back, how to get up when you're face down. We talked about a transition grip, which is something you definitely need to know how to do as a professional weapons handler. There's many applications for that. And then Mike went over how to get up from your back, went over some of the finer body mechanics that you need to practice to be able to do this. His jiu-jitsu background, definitely, he's a real master at body mechanics to talk about proper ways to do things, proper ways to create distance, etc. So these are some good basic skills that you can practice. And again, all of these skills you can practice without the shooting, because you need to be able to get into position quick. That way you can take that extra half second, slow down, get your sights on your target and shoot, and then get back out of position quick. But getting in, getting out of position is really, really critical.
Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed that content, we have more videos over here for you to check out. For those of you looking to enhance your knowledge, make sure that you go over to eliteu.com, where you will have early release of YouTube videos and access to exclusive content. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.